Nice.
Yeah, what's good? What's good? What's good?
Welcome back. Welcome back.
It's on again. It's on and popping.
Yo, before we get started, can I give a quick shout out to one of the apps that I be using a lot these days?
Yes, sir.
We want to shout out Brighton, man, at the Brighton community. I'm actually part of their Thriver Council. So it's a new up and coming app, mental wellness app, where we focus on three primary sectors of health. So the first one is obviously health, next one is wealth, and the last one is purpose, right? And one of the main features that I use on that app is the journaling prompt, the journaling feature on that app. And it's something that I use every day. As you can see, I'm wearing their merch. This one's one of my favorite ones, actually. It's okay, and on the back it says it's okay not to be okay. I'll show you a little bit. Boo! Hey, some graffiti. So if you want some merch, you can use that. We got a promo code. We got a promo code called you can use up to it 10. That's up to it 10 to get some free not free merch, and it ain't free, but 10% off your first purchase. But with that being said, man, let's get into it. What we're talking about today.
Well, real quick, I mean, if you're going to talk about Brighton, you should probably drop it in the on the banner or something, because Brighton, I don't know how to spell it and how people can get to it, because they be searching. It's in the App Store or what?
Yep, you can go to the App Store. For those that are Android users, you can go to Google Play and you tap in Brighton, and this is what it looks like right here.
Well, yeah, what's Brighton? Oh, that way. See,
yeah,
could have been Bright Tone, could have been Bright 10, could have been brightening. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what? Before let me give you that promo code too attached with it. So you go to the website, you type in Brighton, you go to the merch store, and you use promo
pull that
code.
banner back up, because we got to spell it for those that are just listening in their whips. You know what I mean?
Yes.
BRIGHT.
Let's see.
IN.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah, so you guys want to make sure. So BRIGHTN. So forgive me, BRIGHTN with up to it 10, UPTOIT 10, up to it 10.
I always feel like it's a spelling test or a spelling bee when I'm spelling up to it. I'm like, I don't know. It sounds weird when I spell it out.
Right. That's cool, man. Yeah, no, it's a really cool app. I think the other thing to highlight is, one of the things that you tend to use the word a lot, journaling, and I kind of, I think I was talking to you about it a while back. Was like, I don't know. It's an opportunity for you to interact with the platform, and it's not necessarily where you have to write and or type. You can also talk to it, so it's text to talk or talk to text. And so you can use it in that manner also, so which is really cool, because a lot of times some people, I know, like for me, I don't like necessarily journaling per se, but I don't mind writing down some thoughts and things of that nature, or talking into it. So it's pretty cool. You guys should check it out, definitely.
Yeah, Pops is getting used to it. He dabbling right now in the
I
app.
get like these positive motivational type quotes and sayings and things that pop up every day, or sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, just to remind me to stay in a positive mode and mood and whatnot. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, try it out. Anyway, so that's not what we're here to talk about, but it will help with your mental health, no doubts.
1,000%. So tell them what we are going to talk about.
Yeah. So, there was this, I went to a conference, a mental health summit conference, and some people were talking about this book called The Anxious Generation. And I was like, the anxious generation. I was like, that sounds interesting. And the author of the book, I'm not good at always giving props when I should.
Jason or Jonathan Haidt is his name. I think he's one of the J's. Jonathan
Haidt.
On my answer. Jonathan.
What's the last name?
Haidt. Hadiat.
Cool. So yeah, I want to give props to him. So this is a gentleman that did some research on just young people, and kind of why maybe this generation is so anxious and dealing with mental health challenges and even depression, and why maybe it has become heightened with this particular population. And it's really a good read. And for those of us who are parents, who have youth, that were around, I think 2010 is one of the major years that he starts realizing where that's when a huge change took place as far as young people and their engagement with and in the world, due to social media, and uh, technology, and how that really made a change and shift in, yeah, their engagement with the world, which kind of hindered them a little bit. And so yeah, we want to talk to you all a little bit about it and share with you, some of the highlights that we got from it. And I think it was, again, really well written. The research that he has, definitely there's some research behind it, and it just clicked for me personally.
Yeah, so he's a social researcher, a psychologist, and yeah, it was really interesting.
He's
It was
also a
really
professor, I think, also.
yeah, yeah, I believe so. Also a professor. Oh yeah, 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 at NYU. So he was it's funny because when we were talking about this, I don't think we both knew that we were reading the same book.
Yeah, we
Actually,
did.
yeah, it wasn't like a thing that we agreed upon. Like, oh yeah, see, this is what we're gonna read, and then we're gonna talk about on the podcast. It was something that we both heard at different summits, and different channels, and we just started reading it. Like ironically.
Yeah.
So it was cool when I found out he was reading it and I was reading it. I was like, oh, I'm almost done. Like this is what part you on? Da, da, da. But I think one of the coolest things, or the coolest but unfortunate things about this, is that I'm in that generation that he's talking about, right? I'm in that 2000s, 2001 category. I was 10 when the iPhone came out, right? Like that's it's kind of crazy to think. I was in my early adolescence, um, going into my middle school years, and I remember it just being just being transforming lives, so to speak. And it was just like some of the things that he brought up were just so like flabbergasting. I'm sorry, my dog's over here doing backflips. I'm like, what are you doing? But it was just like, wow, that is so true. That this is the reason why we are the way that we are. One of the things that stuck out to me when I was reading the book was comparing my lifestyle to my sister's lifestyle right now. My sister was '09, I was 2000. So I was that last cohort that had that outside play, that had kids in their neighborhood, and we would take over the neighborhood, so to speak. Not in a negative way, but we were just riding our bikes, going in and out of other people's houses, doing stuff
True.
outside, shooting hoops. Like we were just doing what kids were supposedly supposed to be doing. But then in '09, when my sister came around, or even 2012, 13, when she became a little older, there was like almost no kids on the block in the neighborhood anymore. And we just kind of left her with an, I mean, not unintentionally. We probably didn't know the consequences, but we got her iPad because that's what people were doing, right?
Yep.
So that was really interesting to me.
Yeah. So when you think about just like, so one of the things that he mentions in the book that I think is so true is, the idea that, we've taken even play out of school, and that is such an important part of, just growing and nurturing. And we want, young boys and girls, to go to class, and it's gotten more rigid over the years, right, where they just go to class and they sit in a chair for basically 8 hours. Maybe they get up and go to lunch, but they don't get to go out and just release a lot of that energy, especially as you begin to move into middle school. Elementary school, there's a little bit of still playtime. I hear, we live by a school, and I can hear the youth, the young youth in the morning sometimes, when I open up my garage door and get to hear them laughing a little bit. It's kind of cool. So they get a little bit of that, but it's not nearly as much as I think it used to be. And then also just how they were talking about like um, there's so much. So what happened is that parents also got very scared,
Mm,
and reacted in a way of overprotecting their children, and not allowing them to to go outside and play, like Z was saying, like being in the neighborhood and being able to just kick it with his friends, or them going, riding their bikes to Circle K, which is a convenience store out here, and picking up some candy and Gatorade or whatever, and then riding back, or
Yeah.
riding to the basketball court and hanging out. And I know in some communities they're trying to rebuild that, and have those places. But even when I've driven by some of those communities, I don't see youth out there as much. And again, you have to remember we live in Arizona, so it is hot.
That was one of the things I was thinking about too. Was like, what about weather? That prohibits in summertime. Where now we're seeing kind of record highs. Like, what happens then? Like, what do we do?
Yeah, but I think also, but I think it is true that parents just got fearful, right, of their youth being outside unattended. But from that uh, unattendance came some form of structure and play and rules that the group would come up with themselves, or the creativity that they had to come up with like making ramps, I mean, to jump their bikes off of,
Right.
or playing hide and seek, or capture the flag, what I mean,
Mhm.
running through the neighborhood. And then the other thing is that parents have gotten very what's the word, like they're
Protective?
not yeah, protective, but also not wanting youth to play, and,
Right.
and discover, meaning even if they don't have if it's not their own kids, other kids being discoverable and playing.
Right. Right.
It's like, no, what are you doing outside? Where's your parents? Your
Mm.
parents should be with you and watching you. And it's like, well, this is the time for them to be exploring. And yes, we don't want them breaking windows or stealing, but there's so much of this world to explore and discover that I think we've hindered that for young people. We say that, some families go hiking, which is good, nothing wrong with that. But then, we do a lot of, maybe they should go to museums, and some, young people don't get a chance to do that.
Yeah.
But there's just so much to do, um, just in the world, and explore, and picking up rocks, or running into a freaking cactus and getting stuck on it, and being like, okay, shouldn't do that. Or, it just so many different things that I think what he was sharing in the book is that we've just gotten so protective that we've not allowed youth to discover. And I thought that was really a dope point. I think
Yeah.
the other piece, and you can speak on this because you and I did touch on it a little bit, is the social media aspect of things.
Right.
When did you? What was your first social media? I don't remember.
Facebook.
So Facebook was you?
Yeah, that was when it was newer, so a lot of my older peers were on it. So that was the cool thing too about growing up in our neighborhood in my childhood house was there was a range of kids, right? There were people that mostly my age at that time, but we also had some older kids in there as well
Right.
that were using Facebook and stuff like that. So yeah, Facebook.
Facebook was the first one. Yeah, and there's supposed to be these parental. No, it's supposed to be an age limit, right, in which young people are supposed to get on it. But just like Zion shared, he was 10, 11, and I didn't know much about it. I was learning about it myself, and so you're looking at it and you're saying as a parent, like, I mean, how harmful can this be? And so we allow young people to get onto these platforms, but here's the thing that is challenging, is that we've come to learn that it became harmful as years began to go on. And what he was saying in the book, which is really interesting, is that young people are getting exposed, and this is with the internet, not only social media, but the internet in general, the dark web. That they were being exposed to a lot more than what they mentally could
Have capacity for.
comprehend
Right.
or deal with, right? So, I mean, you think about a lot of the things that they can bump into, even with supposedly guardrails, um, in regards to content that they can see, right? I mean, they're seeing war, they're seeing,
Decapitations on X and stuff like that.
yeah, right. And
Yeah.
then even with this influencers, right, where they started taking things. I don't know how recent this was. You can remind me. But remember when my man, what was it? I always get his name messed up. You and your sister laugh at me.
Logan
Uh,
Paul.
Logan
Paul
Paul, when he
Logan.
went to that
My dad always said Paul Logan.
Paul Logan,
In your
Paul Logan.
defense, he got two first names. You know what I mean? He got two first names.
That's his dad. But remember when how many years ago was that when he took it a little bit too far
I
and
think it's
everybody
not
kind of canceled him with the deaths of the tree
the
people's.
suicide forest in Japan, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I think he showed that. How many years ago was that? Would you say?
that was about maybe I want to say 8 or
Almost 8 years
10
now?
now.
Dang, that's
Yeah,
crazy. Time be flying, man. But yeah, you know what I mean? So and young people were kind of watching this. And that's the other piece of it too. When you think about social media, right? Is and Z can speak to it more than me because I think you experimented with for a little bit, which is like, these influencers trying to get these likes and pushing the envelope and doing, you know, too many crazy things.
right.
That's not necessarily discovering, but trying to just get the likes.
Yeah.
And then people that are at 10, 9, 10 years old seeing this stuff. And my final thought, real quick, and then I'll let you jump in, is,
Oh, yeah.
and we know more recently, right, through the, um, I guess it was whistleblower, right, from Facebook that was saying that the research that they've done, knowing that a lot of the images and stuff that the youth have seen on Facebook and actually any social media platform now impacts their mental health. And part of the reason being is, and this is where it's really dangerous. And Z and I talk about this in our presentations to adults and reminding them that everybody only shows the good stuff.
Yeah.
They only show the good stuff that, or pretend to make things look good. And what I mean by that, and you can speak more on this, Z, but is, you know, making it seem like they're always partying or always with friends or always flossing or dripped out or, they never show like when they're at the house just chilling and doing nothing really.
Mhm. Right.
And it almost makes it seem like they're always on the go. And I mean, even people taking pictures in front of like leased jets and it just crazy, like rent a car, Bentleys, and you know what I mean, like
Mhm.
making it seem like they got it all going on. But what are some other things that you saw or was
Yeah. No, I think some of the things that I wanted to backtrack on real quick is talking about the fearfulness that social media also put on the adults, right? Where the adults got access to so much more. I mean, the 24-hour news cycle is relatively new, right?
that is true?
Where you're constantly fed information throughout the nation now. Well, back in the day, it was typically just focused on your local channels, right? Your local networks, your local communities. But now you're seeing everything everywhere all at once using the platform Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You're seeing all these things. So people believe that the world is a lot more scarier now. But data shows that this is one of the safest generations in ever in our nation's existence. Like the things that were happening when we were younger, when you were younger, were still happening at higher levels, and now we're seeing those levels drop, but still parents feel fearful to not let their kids out of their sight. They're hearing a lot of abductions that they do happen. Those things do happen, but they're so rare. But the media or people make it seem like it's such a it's so much more uh what's the word, occasional or more prevalent than what it actually is.
Yeah,
So
100%.
that's one of the things I want to bring up the mind is that, yeah, the crime is low. Safety is at an all-time high now. And if you are one of those parents that are afraid to let your kid out of their sight, um, I get it. We understand, but that's how they are able to gain trust, right? And that's how they are able to navigate the world. Because at the end of the day, when they're 18, that was our rule. When I was 18, I had to be self-sufficient. I had to be able to advocate for myself. I had to be able to do things by myself. And if we keep hand holding the whole time, it doesn't further their learning, doesn't further their character. So
Not
you
at
got to
all.
give them a chance. You got to give them a chance to prove themselves. And I think my mom and dad did a great job doing that with me, and still does it with Valentina really well. My sister, she gets pushed outside of her comfort zone, and I think one of the biggest the I can bring this short story here before we got to wrap up this episode. But I remember my sister being terrified to order for herself. Like that
Mhm.
was the biggest thing. Or when we were at fast food restaurants and we would eat in and she wanted ketchup or something, she was terrified to go and talk to the person up front. And I'm sorry, V, if I'm putting you on blast, but my dad, there was one, I think we were at In and Out or something, and my dad asked her the question, yo, you need some ketchup? You need anything? And she's like, yeah, you know what? I do need some ketchup. And my dad hit her with a, all right, go ahead and ask. Go ahead and ask the person up front for whatever condiment you want. And just the fear in her eyes to be like, you're not gonna do it for me? What you mean? Like you're not gonna do it for me? But she was brave enough and had enough courage, and she did it scared, and she
Yep.
had to practice. And that the first time she did it, it was awkward for her. But my dad allowed that experience to one let her out of his sight, even though he could still see her with his peripheral vision in her eyes. Dad wasn't really watching, but and give her a chance to advocate for herself. And now she's able to do, and that's just a short example. But that's the thing that I'm seeing
Yeah.
a lot of young people is that they can't advocate for themselves. They refuse to advocate for themselves. So we got to give them that trust. So speaking on social media, delay. And I wish that maybe we had a warning label on some of these things. There's part of me all the time where I tell people if I didn't have to do social media, I wouldn't. Like I wouldn't have started so young. I wish I didn't have access to
Yeah.
Instagram, Snapchat, Kick, Ask FM at such a young age. In hindsight, now I think my frontal cortex is now developing. So that's me thinking. But social media just has so many. It causes so much disruption in my school communities where people were
Mhm.
getting in fights.
Preach.
Young women were sending nudes to other
Yeah.
men. Young men and or older men had access to younger women that were in middle school, and some were in college or even out of college, had a job and trying to hit on middle schoolers. And that's something that could have been avoided if nobody had access to that at a young age. And my dad brought up a good point when we were talking. He was like, but it's so hard and heartbreaking to feel like your kid is the only one that doesn't have it. So as a
Mhm.
parent, you want to be like, I don't want my kid to be the outcast or not feel like he's or she is not in the community or sense of community. But I always share with those students that come up to me after a presentation, after like we do an internet safety presentation, the student will come up to me afterwards and be like, well, I don't have social media, so this doesn't apply to me. And I'm like, well, that's great. I was like, well, how do you feel about it though? They
Mhm.
always say, I feel like I'm missing out on some of the current and relevant memes or gifts or whatever. And I was like, well, you're not really missing out on anything. And it's funny when I'm talking to these students because there's some of their favorite things to do is read.
Mhm.
And that was so rare. I mean, that was big in my growing up because my cousins love to read, but nowadays that's so rare to hear, and it makes me so happy when I hear a student say, "Yo, I love to read." I'm like, "That's sick." That taps into the imagination. That taps into something that's further than just an instant hit of dopamine when you're scrolling on
Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. So, the last thing I want to say is it's okay to be bored. It's okay to have our kids be bored. I remember I used to get so annoyed with my mom. I'd be like, Mom, I'm bored. She'd be like, that's okay. I'm like, what do you mean that's okay? That's not okay. She's like, well, what could you do? Like, what are some things that you can do? I was like, well, I can draw, I can read, I can play outside. And she's like, okay, well then do those things. Like, why not? Like, just do those things.
Yep.
And
Right.
that's what we're missing today is our kids are not bored enough. Our kids needs to be bored. It's okay. That's when the imagination wanders and you get
Yeah.
some creative ideas. So we want to add some closing notes on this. Final touches.
Yeah, I was going to share that. I think the other thing, like, being careful when we talk about, on social media and the images that are put forth, that's one of the things that's a challenge when it comes to even substance misuse, right? And a lot of young people seeing or thinking that everybody's doing it when they're not necessarily doing it. And it's only because that's all that's shown, or because sitting at home reading a book doesn't get likes. It's just like, oh, that's not crazy enough, that's not outrageous enough. So you have to really be careful. And so, you know take an opportunity, and we'll highlight some other pieces of this book as we do some more podcasts, because there's so many relevant thoughts here. But a lot of the things that he talks about is basically saying that there should be no smartphones before high school,
I like that.
no social media before 16,
Yep.
phone free schools, far more unsupervised play, and childhood independence. And I have to say, and working with youth over my 20 years plus, I agree with everything that's there. And I want to touch on something that Zion shared that's really truthful, um, is that cell phones cause a lot of issues in schools. When we talk about internet safety workshops and things of that nature, we talk about the uh, fighting and the beefs that happen 90% of the time because of something that somebody said on social media or through Snapchat or text or whatever. So um, we got to talk about that more. We should talk about that more. But you all check out that book, The Anxious Generation. It's something that's good if you like to read. If not, we'll continue to give some highlights and some some pointers from there for us to consider as we move forward, because it's all about helping people to be better and be the best that they can.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this too is that our presentation is right in line with everything that's being shared in this book. And if you want to have more deeper conversations and have a presentation hosted by us, we are more than happy to do that. We've already did a handful of presentations already this past year in 2024, and we're looking to get our calendar filled for 2025. And you want to be one of those organizations, whether it's a parent group, whether it's a youth and family organization. By
Yeah.
all means, we are ready. We're locked and loaded, and we have all this information in the bag, and it's fun. It's a fun presentation. So, with that being said, man, feel free to follow us on Instagram at up to it az. Make sure you check out that Brighton promo code. Use get some good merch. But with that being said, Pop, any final words for the people?
Hey, you guys go out there, stay positive.
Yeah, stay positive. We love it, man. We'll see y'all on the next episode.
We get at y'all later.
Peace.